All right, hello everyone. It is 8 o'clock, so we're going to get started here. First, happy hump day. I hope you're having a great week so far. My week has been a little bit of rocky, but that's why it's hump day, almost there towards the weekend, which is my favorite time of the week. Um, so a couple things to go over really quickly. I do want to mention that I have the Q&A portion of the Hangout turned on. It'll appear on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll have to ask questions there to the Hangout. Please make sure you don't wait till the very end. There is a delay in when you ask them and I see them, so just make sure you have those in before the Hangout ends. And let's see. Yes, and again, these are a couple of things I'm gonna mention every Hangout just to kind of beat it into everyone's heads that you should probably do this. I highly recommend you going on the community and working through the habits that are posted there under the habits category. Like I said before, everyone kind of has their own pace, but if you feel like you have your nutrition and exercise dialed in, it's not really a problem anymore and it's more of a background process, I'd like to work with you in going through these habits that kind of require self-reflection and self-actualization and require you to kind of see where you get with them and then make constant improvements. So please talk to me about that. I'm asking you to initiate that conversation. I'm not going to bombard you with additional things to do. The idea in my coaching you and working with you is to help you find your path of least resistance. So I'm not going to try to pile a bunch of things on top of you and overwhelm you. So in general, I've given you as much as I think you can handle. Let me know if that's not the case, both if it's too much for you to handle or if you need more. So let's have that conversation. Let me know. We'll talk. So there are a few topics that I want to cover tonight, so let's get to it. Let's see. All right. The first topic is going to be meal prep. So recently, Avia brought up the fact that she was struggling with how to make meal prep work for her. She mentioned that she's made meals in advance, and then when it came time to eat that meal, she just didn't want to eat it. She just didn't like what it was. And then she waited till later when she was super hungry, and likely her blood sugar was pretty low from not having eaten, that she just gave into a craving and had something like peanut butter and jelly instead of a meal that kind of helped her with her goals. So, like Avia, I initially resisted the idea of meal planning. It was entirely a foreign concept to me. It kind of seemed like it was too much work. I'd rather just kind of eat what I wanted to when I wanted. Eventually, I came to accept that it's simply a means to an end. It saves time, it saves willpower, and it makes it easier to just eat what you already have planned. So, part of that, though, is you can't just plan to eat something if you don't like it. What I recommend that anyone trying to do meal prep in advance is you sit down and look at what you do like to eat, what you can prepare in advance from that list, and finding foods that you do like to kind of fit into your goals. So if you only like foods that are really easy to overeat because they're low on fiber and protein, you're not really setting yourself up for success in the long term, because that will make you hungry, and that in return you won't really be able to stick to your nutrition goals. So again, that's just kind of a fact of life of how hunger and our food choices work. Fortunately, there's not really much you can do about that except eat lots of filling, low-calorie foods. With that said, we can always take the things we do like and make substitutes that are high in protein or high in fiber. For example, taking Avia's peanut butter and jelly as her fallback doesn't fit the planned food. I love peanut butter and jelly. When I was a kid going up through grade school all the way through high school, I'm pretty sure that I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every single day from kindergarten until I went to college. Every day. I think the only exceptions were when they had Mexican pizza at my school cafeteria. And that was it. Those were the only exceptions. Any other day, peanut butter and jelly. So I love peanut butter and jelly. But by default, peanut butter and jelly is usually low protein, low fiber, high sugar, high fat. So let's fix that. What can we do? One of the things that I like to do is, and I'll be enjoying some here shortly, is there's a low-fat peanut butter powder called PB2, and there's a bunch of different similar things. It's basically a powdered peanut butter that's had most of the fat removed, and you basically reconstitute it with water. So you get the powder and you mix in water, and for example, 1 serving of peanut butter, which is a tiny amount. I mean, if you actually measure it instead of go by a spoonful, it's a really tiny drop of peanut butter for 200 calories. You take the same amount of a powdered peanut butter and it's 45 calories. So essentially you end up with something that's high protein, high fiber, low fat, very filling. So then you'd combine that with some other bread choices, things like that. So to use myself as an example, last year at this time, I was entering my final semester of college. I was working full-time. I was coaching part-time. So I was dealing with trying to maintain a 4.0, going to school, going to work 50 hours a week, doing coaching in my free time, still finding time for my wife and kids. Challenge. So I didn't have a lot of time for meal prep. I didn't have a lot of time to worry about it. So what I did was I'd be eating dinner and then going to class. So I'd eat dinner in my car every day. So what I did was I made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every single night for dinner. I would buy a low-calorie, high-fiber bread. I would take PB2, and then I had a low-calorie, low-sugar grape jelly, and I would make these giant peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that were huge and very filling and low-calorie, and I got a lot of them. And they really hit that craving note, and they filled me up. It fit my goals, and it allowed me to not really gain any weight. That was my goal, to maintain my weight through one of probably the most stressful periods in my entire life. And it was meal planning, because I didn't have to figure out in the moment what I'm going to eat. It was all prepared in advance, and I just grabbed my sandwich from the fridge every morning and my lunch, and I was good to go for the whole day. So there are substitutes you can make all over the place that are similar. It's kind of an art, so you're not going to get it right the first time. You're going to mess up, and that's when you learn. The good news is we have a community of people that we can share ideas with. So I'd like you to start by listing out the things you love to eat, the things you like to eat, the things you're willing to eat but not necessarily like, the things you hate and or are not ever willing to eat or try again. So that will give you a nice place to start. The idea being that you want to find your path of least resistance, and you want to take meal prep from as much of the things you love as possible, and if you can, find a substitute that fits your goals that comes from the love category, and you move into the like category. And then in the end, you want to fill in a little bit with the things you might be willing to try again, and you want to avoid anything you hate. There's no point in making a food you hate that you're going to get sick of for your meal prep. So, and again, it's all about the path of least resistance. If you aren't making meals in advance that you like and they don't fit your goals, you're not going to make it any easy on yourself. And life is way too short to be forcing yourself to eat things you hate and wasting food. That's pretty much the end of that. Like I said, this is a big part of community, where relying on what other people have done and getting ideas and kind of adapting those ideas to your own situation and your own likes is going to be a huge key to success in meal prep. Luckily for me, I don't mind eating the same things every day. There are times when I eat the same dinner for 3 or 4 nights in a row and the same lunch every single day. It makes it easy, and I've basically offloaded the thought process where I don't even have to worry about food. It's just something that I need to do to keep up with all the things I have going on. So, alrighty. The second topic that I wanted to discuss is about your goals. I've noticed a trend recently in recent correspondences with people. There seems to be this hyper focus on the long-term goals or long-term scale weight. Now, I think it's important that you have long-term goals in the back of your mind. But what's more important than the goal itself is the why, the reason behind those goals. So let's say your goal is you come to me and say, Chuck, I want to lose 50 pounds. So other than that being a smaller number on the scale, what benefit to your life does losing 50 pounds give you? Is it that you'll feel better overall? Will you sleep better? Will your knees stop hurting? Will your clothes fit better? Will you get a boost in confidence? Those are things you have to kind of explore for yourself. Now, this will take some self-reflection. You might have to go through it a couple times, and these things might change as you continue on your journey. The main reason is when you go through the self-reflection, these reasons are what you're actually working towards, not a magical number on the scale. How you feel, what your body composition is, how your clothes fit, that doesn't always match up with what the scale shows, especially if you've been overweight for a significant portion of the time. Your weight may end up just being higher as a result of having additional dead fat cells on your body, that you just hold more water than other people, despite the fact that you are as lean or strong or in as good a shape as someone else. It's just a fact of life. So because of the process of losing a large amount of weight and keeping it off is a process that can be measured in months or years. I mean, I'm on year number 8 now, and it's still an ongoing learning process. So it's 8 years that I couldn't just revert back to my old habits. It has to be a continual learning process. So when you measure something in months and years, you can't just focus on that end number. It's not helpful at all. You really have to think about how your life will change as a result, and that should help you be a constant reminder of why you're going through this process. It's the changes that happen as a result of what you're doing, not the magical number at the end, because in reality, that number changing does absolutely nothing. God forbid you should lose a leg or an arm, you would lose 50 pounds overnight, but it would actually change things for the worse, I would assume, right? So it's just a number. It doesn't matter that much. What's important is what you want to or hope to achieve that losing weight will actually give you for your life. And that's what you should focus on, not some magical number that you hope to get to one day. And as time changes, that number may change as well. So that's another reason why it's not great to hyper-focus on that number. So I'd like to include a non-fitness example just to kind of help with the concept in your minds. I think that fitness and finance are very similar in some aspects. And of course, when I say that, that's kind of oversimplifying both of them. But many people are dealing with a form of debt like school loans. So one of my long-term goals is to pay off all school loans. And I assume that other people that have school loans have the same goal. So this is similar to I have to lose 50, 100, 200 pounds to I have to pay off 50, 100, $200,000 in school loans. So you can't just focus on that total amount or you're going to get overwhelmed. And again, the number doesn't really matter. Bringing that number to zero in the case of the school loans is the long-term goal, but why? Why do we want to bring that number to zero? Well, the why is so you can use that money you're currently paying to the government or a private loan company or AES. You can use that money for something else in your life. So that's the benefit that paying it off confers. You don't owe that money anymore. You can use that money for something else that might be more fun. This is kind of setting the goals are not based on the destination, but what you get by traveling that road, that journey. And so it's about what getting there, how that can change your life. So again, all these topics are things that if someone wanted to explore a little bit more beyond this, please let me know. I'd be happy to discuss it. I kind of find, like I said, it is a gross simplification, but fitness and finance are kind of closely related. And I have something coming up soon where I'll talk about that a little bit more. Someone that I work with is a financial planner, and we were talking back and forth about some of the similarities where I asked her if I came to her with a financial situation, what would she say to me? And I said, basically, if you replaced everything you just told me where it was like pounds instead of, or calories instead of dollars, it would basically be the advice that I would give. So that's coming soon. And real quickly, the last thing that I want to briefly go into is tracking versus rules. Now, most people that I started working with, we start with tracking things, tracking our calories, tracking what we weigh, tracking our measurements. And if you're up for it, there are lots of other things you can track, not mandatory. Things like how much water am I getting? How much sodium am I taking in? How much fiber am I getting? Now, I can understand that if you're not a type of person that likes seeing a bunch of data rolling in, that this can be incredibly overwhelming. So I want to say it once and for all, make it very clear, none of this tracking is mandatory. I usually recommend when we start that you track a minimum of your calories and a weigh-in and or measurements as a minimum. That's recommended. It's not required. This is not required whatsoever. I'm going to use an example. Someone mentioned that they felt like they were overwhelmed from tracking too much, and I asked them to list out the things that they were tracking. And it was all the things I mentioned: sodium, how much water they were getting, making sure they weren't getting too much caffeine, how many steps they were taking. They were tracking their workouts. They were tracking their calories, their protein, their carbs, their fat, their fiber, their potassium. It was just like, no wonder they were overwhelmed. I was getting overwhelmed, and it wasn't even me tracking it. So what I recommended in that case was peeling back the number of things being tracked to just the very basics, calories. For now, let's focus on calories, and switching out some of those things you track, those metrics, with just simple rules. So for example, for most people, you probably want to drink more water. But this person loved coffee. So the rule that I proposed was, every time you get up to get another coffee, get a glass of water. And the rule is, don't get another coffee until you finish that water. So that way you're not having to track anything. You're just making a rule that just makes it easier to get more water. A similar one could be anytime you have a meal, you want a mostly protein source, filling up a fourth to a half of your plate, and then you want to have basically half of it be some type of vegetable. That way you can really just worry about the total calories, and the macros don't matter. You can just focus on getting whole nutritious foods that fit on your plate, where it's going to be mostly plants and vegetables and fruit, and then just focus on the total calories. You don't even really have to focus on the total calories if tracking bothers you that much and is kind of a hindrance to your success instead of a help. So you could just really focus on your food choices. You'd probably need to eliminate any hyperpalatable foods that kind of make you overeat and just focus on whole foods that are one ingredient, like fruits and vegetables and lean protein sources and things like that. So for me, that's a little bit relying on chance too much, and it's harder to fit in things you love. I'd rather be able to eat ice cream and drink beer and track my calories, but that's not going to be the same for everyone. Everyone moves at their own pace. Everyone has their own journey. So if you currently feel like you need fewer things to track, or if tracking is not working for you, please talk to me and we will switch in and out things that work for you. It's like, again, I'm going to say, you're going to hear me say this every day. It's about the path of least resistance. You have to make this a background process. It cannot be something that consumes every aspect of your life. It can't be something you think about all day long. That's my job. Let me think about it all day long for you, and you just go about your life and just have it be something you do in the background. All right, so again, if anyone wants to discuss any of this further or anything else, please contact me and we'll talk. Other than that, let me double check and see if there's any questions. No, there's not. So everyone have a great evening, and I hope to talk to you soon. All right, bye.